Welcome to the Data for Subscriptions podcast, where we learn and explore how to run better subscription businesses. I'm your host, Behdad Banian, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Karthik Kirubakaran, Director of Financial Systems at 8x8, to the show. Karthik, welcome.
Thank you very much, Behdad, for having me here.
So Karthik, I'm looking forward to today's topic, but before we get there, why don't we start with sharing a little bit more about yourself? What made you such a passionate quote-to-cash specialist?
Yeah, thanks, Behdad, for having me here again. And my name is Karthik. I work for 8x8 Inc., Director of Financial Systems at 8x8 Inc. So I have like 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Started as basically as an engineer, and then moved on to the manager, and then now currently working as a director. So I started my career as a web developer, and then slowly moved on into this billing, and then into the quote-to-cash space, right? So I have been into this quote-to-cash space for like the last 10 plus years, and things are evolving, right? This over the last 10 plus years, right? And this whole field is like a very interesting field, and you get to learn a lot of things, lot of new stuffs, and every day the things are improving to a great extent. That made me passionate, and I have been into this B2B for like close to more than a decade.
And let's talk a little bit about 8x8, even though we're going to get into quite a lot of details. But on an overall picture, what does the company do?
Yeah, 8x8 is basically an industry-leading customer experience platform. With the integrated products like unified communication, we call it as UCaaS, CCaaS, and also as communication APIs. 8x8 also provide product like MS Teams integration. Basically, if you have MS Teams, right, we provide the outbound service like outbound calling, all those things. And also, we also have product that can integrate with the Salesforce, Zendesk, all those things, right? So 8x8 is an industry leader and 13th leader in UCaaS Gartner Magic Quadrant for 13 years in a row, and also featured in CCaaS Magic Quadrant for 9 years. And we are like a publicly listed company, and with over 700 millions in revenue.
And let's dig a little bit more into the offering that you guys have. And for those that will be following us into the details of the quote to cash, where we want to learn about the SKUs or SKUs that you have, because we want to understand the complexity of your offering.
Yeah, basically 8x8 offering, right? It has like, we call it as 6 different pillars, right, of offering, right? It all starts with CCaaS, right, which is more like a contact center project. So it delivers the AI-enabled omni-channel customer engagement capability, contact center as a service, right? And then the second pillar is called the UCaaS, right, which is basically voice, video conferencing, messaging, and other collaborative tools. And then comes the communication API, right, which is like basically a low-code or no-code API, right, for embedding the communication capability, right, like SMS, voice, and other notifications. So we also have Microsoft Teams integration. Basically, if your company uses Microsoft Teams, right, we provide the PSTN and other capabilities, right. That's another pillar. And then we also have something called Engage, which is more like brings together the world of both CCaaS and UCaaS, right? So, and then we also have the ecosystem native integration, which is more like native integration with your platforms like Salesforce, Zendesk, and Microsoft Dynamics, right? So basically, we have like 6 different pillars of products that we sell.
And can you, beyond the pillars, give us a bit of a feeling for how many SKUs we're talking about in total?
So we have like close to 100 plus SKUs that we support. Basically, it's on the UCaaS side, right? We also provide the equipments as well, meaning that the regular telephone lines, all those things as well, right? So it will be like close to more than 100 SKUs that we support.
Yeah. And how about the pricing structure? How do you price your different products?
Yeah, since it's like a multiple product offering, right, across the customer experience platform, right? So we have like multiple pricing model. So we have something like a seat-based pricing model for the UCaaS and CCaaS with the option of both long-term and short-term contracts. And we also have a API-based pricing model as well. If you are using our communication-based API, right, we have API-based pricing model also as well. And we also have like a usage products like SMS, WhatsApp messaging, all those things as well, right? We also provide customers with the ability to buy those bundles upfront or based on their usage pattern or pay as you go model or a consumption model, right? So we provide all the complete flexibility for all the customers, right? Based on the business needs.
Yeah. And given that you have a telco routing, I can imagine that the usage-based element is something that you've had for quite a long while, because for some businesses, usage-based is more of a latter kind of introduction where they started with subscriptions initially. Is that a correct?
That is absolutely correct, right? Since we also provide telecom offering as well, so there are like a good amount of usage-based complexity that comes with it. Like think about it for telephone calls, right? SMS and then recordings, right? So there are like multiple plans SKUs as well within that, right? For example, a plan can give you a free local inbound calling, and then the other plan can have like a metered calling, right? So we process like close to a billion usage record every month, and it goes through like close to the like the 3 million usage rating engine usage rates, pick up the correct rates and then rate those, mediate and rate those telephone records or those records, usage records, right, appropriately, right? So we are heavy on the usage side as well.
Great. Okay, with that as a baseline, let's jump right into the core of our discussion today. How does an ideal quote to cash system look like in your view?
Yeah, very good question, right? It really starts with the more reliable configured pricing and reliable tool to configure price and create quotes for your customer, right? So you need to have a very robust quoting tool. So there are like a lot of options in the industry today, right? Compared to where we were like a couple of years back, right? You have the Salesforce CPQ, you have Velocity, which is currently called as Industry CPQ, and you have Aptas, Zora, Oracle CPQ, and a lot of things, right? It all starts with picking the right quoting tool. And then comes the CLM tool, right? You need to have a contract lifecycle management tool, right? To where all your customer contacts go in and then takes care of renewal and other things, right? So once the quoting and contracting is done, then you need to have it gets converted to the order, right? You should have a right tool to do the fulfillment split, right? So which is nothing but breaking the order, one master order, into the multiple components, right? So once that is done, and the next comes the most important thing, right? The billing, right? You can have like a very good quoting tool, but if your billing tool cannot bill the way it wants, then there is no use in it, right? And especially the billing industry is also quite mature now compared to 10 years back, right? So we have products like Logisense, which can do the both subscription and usage-based billing, and then we have something called Billing Platform that can do the subscription and usage-based billing, and you have Zora, Salesforce Billing, ChargeBee, all these tools, right? And you can pick the tool based on your business needs, and then comes the payments and invoice generation, right? So most of the billing software provide out of the box support, or else you can have your own tools as well, right? Like a Stripe or something as well to do the payments and other things. And finally, integrate all this billing data on the order data into your ERP system, right? It could be anything, right? It could be a NetSuite, SAP, or Oracle, or anything, right? And then make sure all your data is processed and pushed to the ERP system for the RevRec and other financial process, right? So one important thing that some of the companies don't think about is the data, right? From day one, when you're implementing your quote to cash, you should think about the data and make sure that you have the right BI platform, especially in the consumption model, right? It's going to be an iterative process. It can be a data lake or data warehouse, right? Pick based on your company needs and based on your use cases, right? But make sure to start thinking about this BI from day one when you implement the quote to cash, right? So yeah, so that's what I think the ideal quote to cash would look like.
Okay. So one of the aspects that I wanted to kind of dig into is, so you see, there are a lot of different systems. You mentioned several of them now, but out in the market, of course, there's a whole host of additional software and tools that can be deployed within a quote to cash. One of the challenges I think businesses face is that none of these systems were really developed to talk to each other. So, for example, they could have different formats. They operate by different rules. A second factor is the type of business that you have, for example, which is actually quite real-time based. Now, not every business necessarily is built on real-time usage.
That's correct.
One of the challenges that we observe is that quote-to-cash systems today simply lack robust capabilities for managing usage data that you mentioned. And one of the, for example, typical consequences we see is that companies might take on a billing transformation because they suffer from a delayed billing, or they might have a lot of disputes raised by customers, right? That tends to be seen as a billing issue, while in reality is actually the usage data that you feed into the billing system. What I'm trying to get at is, what is your thinking about the importance of having a robust, automated, error-free usage management capability within a quote to cash?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? Especially a company like 8x8, right? So we do a process like close to a billion usage event every month, right? Which could be like multiple. It's not like a one single type of usage event. It's like a multiple type of usage event, right? So some of the industry leading softwares they do support this usage mediation and rating to a very large extent. But always think about it, right? They are not going to be a perfect 100% fit to your business. So you should have something like a usage pipeline, right, where you can massage the data or do some transformation, right, before feeding into those billing engine, right? So think about it, right? They are not going to build especially for your use case, right? They are going to have a general model. So there is always some work you need to do there during that usage event pipeline, right, where you need to make sure you massage the data and then feed it in the way that the billing system can accept it and then mediate it and then rate it, right? So that is always going to be some bit of challenge, especially if you are into the usage side, right?
Yeah.
Usage heavy company, right? Yeah.
And this is a pattern that we see some of the most mature companies actually in the industry that have been doing subscription-based business. And I think it's important to mention that usage management necessarily doesn't have to be connected to usage-based pricing. You might choose to do usage-based pricing, but you might also not choose because it's a better fit for how you want to serve your customers. But usage management nonetheless is equally important. Of course, if you're going to price based on usage, it's just going to increase the requirements. But some of the best companies that the most mature companies we've seen, they're actually more and more stepping into separating usage management, as you indicated, from the billing system or the Verizon system. So it's a standalone capability that it needs to have, but not standalone in the sense that it operates by its own, but it's a capability that then cooperates and collaborates and mediates with all of the systems. And I think this is just a growing trend. And I do believe myself that with the need to offer more bespoke offerings, more adapted offerings, and also with more complex pricing, this is just going to continue to run rampant.
Yes, exactly right. So I have seen companies where they separate it out the usage from the actual billing, right? So there are some companies where they use the mediation rating within their proprietary systems instead of relying on the external billing software, right? So they do that and then feed the rated, mediated or rated records into their billing system, right? Only for the invoicing, right? That's the other approach, right? Yeah. So you can pick the approach that's right for your use case, basically.
Where are you guys in relation to your journey when it comes to this ideal setting and where 8x8 is?
Yeah, basically we are also in the middle of the business transformation project as well. So we are in the process of implementing a new code to cache tool. We are starting the coding, right? We are working. We are in the process of implementing a tool called Velocity, which is from Salesforce. Currently, I think it's called Industry CPQ. So previously, it used to be called Velocity, right? So that is more targeted towards the communication industry, right? So we are in the process of implementing that, and we are also working with a software called Logisense, which can use both subscription and usage usage rating. And for taxes, we are implementing Avalara. We already have Avalara, and we are trying to bring in Avalara for the whole for this new business transformation project, along with NetSuite as the ERP solution.
Yeah.
So we are currently in the process, and we are planning to go live sometime in the next couple of months with the new process.
And if you would pinpoint perhaps the 2-3 most important improvements or challenges that you want to hit, what would those be?
Yeah, so if you really look at it, right, the whole world is moving towards the consumption model, right? So we as a company, we are also looking at various options, how we can we can provide pricing and packaging options for all our products. And we are also in the process of moving towards a consumption model, right, to see how we can effectively give those products to our end customer. So, and moreover, it's not going to be like one model fits all solution, right? So the pricing and packaging option will be based on the segment. It's going to be based on the segment and geos, right? We are also looking at the customer usage pattern from the past and see how we can effectively produce those pricing and packaging for our end customers. The other challenges that not 8x8, right? Any company moving into the consumption model is going to face is the rev rec and forecasting, right? So, for example, if you look at the traditional SaaS model, it's always more times 12. That's how you calculate the ARR, right? Once into the consumption model, you're into the consumption-based model, it's going to be very, very difficult to do the forecasting and also the rev rec, right? Because the usage pattern is going to change based on the seasonality and other factors, right? So we are also looking at how to solve that challenges as well, how to effectively help with that rev rec as well with the consumption model.
Can you share which KPIs you track to measure the performance of your quote to cash environment?
So there are like industry standard KPIs, right? That's what we are going to follow, right? So one is the quote conversion rate. Okay. So yeah, higher conversion. If the quote conversion rate is higher, for example, you send a quote to the customer and then they accept the quote or reject the quote, right? Yeah, quote conversion rate suggests that your quotes are very much aligned with the customer needs, and also that sales teams are very effective at closing the deals, right? That means you have a very good quoting system, right? So it also helps you to assess the effectiveness of your sales strategies and the pricing models. Okay. The other thing is the average quoting time, right? It's the time taken for the agents to produce a quote, right? So again, this is going to be always a iterative process, right? You can always add improvement to that, and make sure that average quote time is improving over the point of time, right? For example, you can move some of the process offline, right? For example, it could be collecting the address, right? Service address. It could be collecting the payment. All those could be moved offline to improve that thing. And then there comes the invoice accuracy, right? So look at the cases. Once you are with the new QTC model, QTC stack, look at the invoice accuracy, right? How many cases you are receiving related to pricing and invoice inaccuracy, all those things, right? See if there is a drop in the number of cases related to the invoice accuracy, right? Again, the next thing could be the churn rate, right? Higher churn rate can signal issues in pricing, contract terms, or billing, or anything, right? And low churn rate is a sign that you have a long-term customer satisfaction and you have a perfect pricing model, right? And also the packages, right?
Got it. So I want to circle back to when we spoke about usage data management. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you today manage usage data within your system?
So since 8x8 is like a communication company, right? So we have a proprietary system to track all our usages, homegrown proprietary system. So we track like multiple different types of usages today, which could be like a call detail record, which is the regular phone calls, right? And then we also have SMS usage. And then we also have the call recordings. And we also have like more API-based usages, all these things, right? So we have our own proprietary usage system. What we do is we push all those usages into our billing platform. So here we have a usage event pipeline through which we push them to the billing platform. So mediation, everything is taken care by our billing platform today.
Okay.
And we process like close to like a billion records every month, and we have the last 10 plus. We also maintain the last 10 plus years of usage events on our usage database.
Yeah. Can you give a sense of rate of automation versus manual efforts in this process?
Yeah. So yeah, there is always let's be honest, right? There is always in any company there is always going to be few outliners where you need to build the customers manually, right? So it's not going to be 100%, especially if you are in the usage world or other things, right? There is always going to be this one deal that you need to take care of that manually, right? Not only that, right? There could be some kind of use cases where the sales wants to test the market, right? They wanted to roll out a product quickly to see how the customer adoption is. So you cannot expect to automate those things from day one and day one, right? So you need to give that flexibility so that certain part of the invoices can be manual at least. For example, if the customer has like 10 products, right, you can automate the subscription portion of it, but the usage can still be you should provide the ability to add them manually, right? That one line item, right? But down the stream, you can still automate that process. For example, you can create a SKU, something like a SKU that can take care of the rev rec and taxation. You just need to attach the manual amount to that SKU, right? So there is always going to be some level of manual, but make sure it doesn't go out of the hands and try to keep it minimal. And then at some point of time, try if you can try to automate that piece as well over the point of time.
So looking at what you have in play today, what will be some of the challenges you would like to solve for with regards to usage management?
Yes. Even at 8x8, right, we have like a wide variety of usages, right? We have something called, we have the CDR usage, we have the SMS usage, we have the call recording, API usage, all these things, different kinds of usage, right? And we have a large set of data from the last 10 plus years, right? Usage thing, right? Yeah. So we need to see how we can effectively use that usage data to understand and come up with the predictability of how things are going to pan out in the future, right? For example, we can use that data for churn, fraud, all those things, right? So we can, of course, get it today through the dashboards and everything, but we are also trying to see how we can analyze those usage pattern, and then how we can effectively use that usage pattern and the usage data to produce effective pricing and packaging model for the customer, right? We need to see how we can bring that upfront to the sales and everything based on the usage, what we see on the usage side, right? So that's something that we need to try it out to see how we can make 100% use of that usage data.
Yeah.
Not only that, right? When we move to towards the consumption model, so that might also help in forecasting and rev rec as well, how the usage pattern is going to pan out.
Yeah, it's interesting that you raised this because, in fact, we should also add in today's show notes the link to a previous episode that we did. But before I go there, what you mentioned is quite common, I find, today with regards to companies wanting to use the existing usage data to learn more from. You mentioned churn. So again, we have some good, let's say, customer examples where they, by managing that data, can basically have triggers that can inform either would it be sales or would it be customer success or whatever it might be to trigger an action to avoid churn. And that comes back to basically be able to digest and analyze the usage patterns. Now, you mentioned something else in terms of with consumption-based pricing and the concern around forecasting. And this is what we talked about in one of the previous episodes, where some of the guys here at Digital Route on the product side are working on the frontier of deploying AI capabilities and have been testing it with a couple of the customers here, where they can use the existing usage data of that customer to predict. And as well as they use for another topic that we spoke about, which is anomaly detection. Now, anomalies could simply be data errors that can lead to, for example, one issue could be revenue leakage. But it is something that I think quite a lot of companies have started to realize. And we'll make sure to share that information because it could be interesting for yourself to have a look at as well. But if I go back to what you raised, what would be a valuable benefit and output should you solve for some of these issues that you said? So, for example, understanding usage patterns to prevent churn. What would be a good outcome seen from your eyes?
Yeah, very good thing, right? So one thing is think about, right? Let's say take the customers that are with you like 1 year or 2 year, right? So most of the customers have a pattern, right? They're going to have a pattern, right? How they are going to use our product or any product, right? In general, right? So look for the customers who are with the company for like 1 year or 2 year, right? And then understand the pattern, right? So there is always this going to be in the consumption model, it's going to be going up and down, right? So for example, while understanding the pattern, if you see a sudden drop in usage, right, or sudden drop in the customers or the users logging into your system, then that's going to raise a red flag, right, for you, right? So that's where you need to be very you need to look into that part of it whenever there is a drop in usage or increase in usage, right? Especially when there is a drop in usage, that's going to be a very big red flag. And then you need to do a deep dive into that customer and then see what would have caused those drops. It could be just like a seasonality or something else, as I mentioned, right? Yeah. So also this is going to help you with this forecasting as well when you move towards the consumption-based model.
So, Karthik, before we move to the wrap up of things, so 8x8, of course, have had a really interesting and let's say successful journey. You were recently also mentioned in Gartner's Magic Quadrant as one of the leaders in your domain. What should we expect from 8x8 if we look a year, 18 months down the road?
So we are also revamping all our product offering, and then recently we did a complete makeover of our brand name and everything. That went live like a week back. You can go and look at the website. Anybody listening to this can go and look at our website, also the LinkedIn pages, right? So we are going to moving away from more like a communication company. We are more like a customer experience company, right? So we are in the plan of providing one integrated platform for all the customer experience, right? Starting from the UCAS all the way to the end, right? Anything, right? It's going to be like we are going to be like a one-stop shop for everything that they need, and it's going to be a seamless integration across end to end, right? That's what we are providing. We are planning to provide. That's why we have that 6 pillars of products that we give it to the end customers, right? So there are a lot of interesting stuffs happening within our company as well, and yeah, so we are all very excited about the future for the next 12 to 18 months.
Exciting. We're going to take a question from one of the listeners here. And so the question is, more specifically from an 8x8 value proposition standpoint, what is unique about what you offer versus the alternatives in the market?
Yeah, definitely, right? That's a very good question, right? So if you look at some of the competitors that we have, right? So they are either in the UCAS space or in the CCAS space or in the SMS or provide the API, right? So none of our competitors have the complete suite of product that we provide, right? So for example, if you wanted to, if you go to any of the competitors, you need to get the UCAS product from one competitor, and then they don't provide a CCAS product, and they need to go to a different competitor for a different vendor for the CCAS, and different vendor for the integration and everything, right? But in our case, it's like a one complete platform, right? End to end, right? So that's the major differentiator that as a 8x8 for 8x8, right, compared to some of the competitors, right? So not only that, right, we also have product if your company does a lot of outbound messaging and all those things, right, like SMS, all those things, right? We do have those products integrated into our ecosystem as well. So it's like a one yeah. From 8x8, they can get all their communication products, basically.
Gotcha. Okay, so final question to you, Karthik. For all of us who've been listening and we're looking to build this ideal quote to cash setup, what are the 3 steps you recommend us to take tomorrow, having listened to you now?
Yeah, so very, very, very good question, right? So in any ideal quote to cash, right? First thing is it's all about your business users, right? So what I would recommend is sit with your business users, understand the process, and come up with that end-to-end flow, right? So if possible, sit with don't bring all your business users into the one room. If possible, have like a more individual session with each and every business team within your organization. So pick a DRI for each and every department, right? Understand the process, understand the requirement, what they are looking for in the new transformation, right? And then come up with your plan, right? Come up with your plan and then the end-to-end architecture, right? How the ideal process is going to look like, right? And then get the sign off from your end users, right? So do this even before picking up the QTC stack, right? And then once you are done with that, then start evaluating the QTC stack, right? What would be the right quoting tool? What would be the right billing tool? And what would be the right NetSuite tool, right? So then start picking up the tool. So what I would recommend is, if possible, do a POC with the tools before you do a full-fledged implementation, right? I know it's time consuming. The first two steps I told you is going to be very time consuming because you're going to invest like a lot of people's time and everything, but it's really worth towards the end. So especially with the POC, right? So you don't have to do a very complicated POC. Just pick either a product or one particular geo and then see how the data and everything, the whole process is going to flow end to end, right? And then the third one I would say is also think about the end state, right? The end systems, right? RevRec and other things, right? So you can have a very good billing system and then very good quoting system, but if you don't think about the RevRec, especially in the consumption model, it's going to be very difficult. And make sure you make it easy for the RevRec team to do the revenue recognition in the consumption model. So those are the three things I would think about. Yeah. And maybe there is one fourth thing as well. Always think about the data, right? Make sure you push all this data into a BI or somewhere, right? So that you can do all the analytics and everything, right? Especially it's going to be an iterative process. You need all the data into a BI tool. It could be a data lake or data warehouse, depending on your company needs. But make sure you have that, you are thinking about that from day one in the whole QTC process.
Super. All right, with that, thank you everybody for tuning in today. If you want to learn more about today's topic, you can simply just tap Quote to Cash into the comments field or just reach out to us in any channel you prefer, and we'll make sure to connect back with you. And with that, Karthik, thank you so much for today's conversation. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you again, everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Behdad, for bringing me here. It was a very good conversation, and thanks to all the listeners. And we'll have a few more sessions, hopefully. Yeah.